3 Canadian soldiers killed in Afghanistan, a roadside bomb. Our apologies to retired Major General Louis McKenzie, who rejoins us now from Ottawa. Thank you for your patience, sir.
Sure,
we were talking earlier, you were saying, yes, I'm a little concerned about what's been going on. Let me ask you this. Is the Taliban getting more aggressive? Are they getting, they're certainly more effective. Is it because they're better led, better equipped, better tactics? What's going on?
I would say it's because there's more of them, too. And I would say that sanctuaries they have across the border in Pakistan really has to be addressed. I'd be very disappointed if there weren't some serious discussions going on in NATO headquarters right now. And I don't mean the military headquarters. I mean the political headquarters in Brunsum, where the ambassador should be reporting back to the national leaders of the 26 countries and expressing concern that, look, if we're going to take this thing seriously, and we're not going to fight for a draw, we're going to fight for a win, then we all got to get on board this, and we've got to start getting additional troops and resources in there. And some of those troops that are in country already really have to get rid of these caveats and show up for the fight, or the fight's going to come to them. It's coming to some of them already with caveats in the northern part of the country. So I think it's a serious situation, and we just can't keep sloughing it off and saying it's more of the same and we're holding our own. You don't hold your own in a war, you win it.
Well, it's come to them in a big way with the Americans. You may recall that attack, 10 suicide bombers apparently, the simultaneous attack against a U.S. base in their part of Afghanistan, which I take it they fought off. But still, the Taliban has become so much more aggressive in coming after NATO. It seems to be a change.
Well, in particular, where NATO is close to the Pakistani border, because it's much like the Vietnam situation where there'd be attacks and then they'd drift back across the border into Cambodia, where for most of the time the Americans couldn't pursue them. So there's a similarity there. But I find it very depressing that an alliance, to paraphrase the Three Musketeers, one for all and all for one, which is embedded in the charter of NATO, where the one country that is providing more troops than all the other 39 countries put together has to provide the additional resources, and I'm talking about the Americans. I mean, what about, you know, there are 800,000 soldiers in the Turkish army, for heaven's sake, just as an example. But the majority of the countries participating in this mission have less than 1% of their fighting army on the ground. Now, when NATO was bombing Serbia, Kosovo, where there was no risk, nobody scratched their finger on our side, everybody showed up. Every NATO nation was there, represented. But now there's blood and there's gold being spent. It's disappointing, to say the least, how few soldiers we have on the ground in Afghanistan to deal with what appears to be a growing insurgency.
What effect does this have on the troops, sir, when, and as we're all aware, you know, they do their job, they do what they're told, and they do the best they can, but when the realization starts to sink in, like you're saying, we're not fighting to win this thing, we're just fighting for a draw, and yet your people keep falling, that's got to hurt.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. There's a difference between morale and attitude. And morale is when soldiers are sullen, withdrawn, they don't want to volunteer for anything, they avoid duty. I personally, and I think every other senior leader would say the same thing, I've never seen that in the Canadian Forces. Attitude's something else. If I'm allowed to say pissed off on CTV, you can have a bad attitude and really be mad at the inability of your alliance to generate the support that you need. For example, Canadians go out along fingers of roads where most of the population is, set up a forward operating base, provide security, and then something happens 10, 15 kilometers away, and they have to take some of those resources and go over the hill and deal with that. Meanwhile, while they're gone, the Taliban can move in behind and establish themselves somewhere around their base camp. I mean, that's because of a lack of resources. Everybody uses the Brits in Malaya as an example. In Malaya, a classic counterinsurgency, the British had around 23 to 25 soldiers, security personnel, to look after 1,000 civilians and guarantee security. In southern Afghanistan, we have about 1.5 soldiers for every 1,000 civilians. So, I mean, I rest my case. NATO generates some resources and equipment. Helicopters, for heaven's sakes. We're having to go out and lease and buy 6 helicopters. There are thousands, not heavy helicopters, but medium helicopters within NATO available, sitting parked on runways throughout Europe, doing very, very little, doing nothing by way of combat. So let's, why the hell should we have to go out and buy and lease? Helicopters are not a battle group responsibility. They're a brigade responsibility, which translate to Region South in Afghanistan. This alliance is in serious trouble, and when the wash-up is done, when this thing is over, the results in the report is not going to be pretty.
Sounds like you're a little PO'd yourself, General.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of you and I having to talk about this, and while other countries are not pulling their weight. Yeah, I'm a little upset.
Okay, General, thank you, sir. Nice talking to you.
Cheers, Dan. Thank you.